You're listening to the Kurtenbloggers. Jason Brough and Mike Halford on Team 1040. Presented by Sports Action Props. Check out the complete Sports Action Props menu at bclc.com/sportsaction.
Good evening, Vancouver. Mike Halford, Jason Brough. As mentioned, we are the Kurtenblog. We are on Team 1040. Hello, everybody. Hello, Jason.
Hello.
How are things?
They are very well. Spent most of the evening watching hockey.
Lots of games tonight.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. Based on tonight's games, which fans hate their team the most right now?
Several candidates.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Leafs. Leafs lost again, 4-1 to Florida. But they got a goal, so that was nice for them. The Devils lost to the Sabres at home. Which you hate to do, and I saw Ilya Kovalchuk had a bit of a problem on the shootout. Puck got away from him.
Bit of a snafu.
And the Penguins smoked by the Bruins. I think they were up two goals in that, right?
They were up 4-2
in the third, I think, and then
lost 7-4.
And they lost 7-4, so that one kind of got away from them. And the Penguins are really struggling too. I don't think the Penguins fans hate their team because I don't think you can hate your team. Like a few years after it won the Cup.
No, you get a grace period.
I think Leafs fans hate their team. I think Devils fans hate their lives right now. Just because you're looking at Ilya Kovalchuk and just going, okay, you're not even that, you haven't even been that good, and we basically mortgaged the team for you.
This is true.
Yeah. Who would you say hates their team?
I'm going to go with Toronto.
I'm
going to go with the Leafs, yeah. It's really tough to go on a 2-game mini streak into Florida. And walk out of there with no points, minus 7 goals. They lost 4-0 and 4-1. And then have to sit around for 2 days until Saturday when the Vancouver Canucks come to town. I don't think that's a good situation for Toronto.
I was actually making a couple of Leafs cracks on Twitter.
I saw those.
As I do. So, just fun banter. Got some angry responses from Leafs fans. They're a little sensitive right now. Here's one guy's response. Vancouver fans should rejoice every day for the Leafs' existence. Otherwise, they would be the biggest joke franchise in the league.
Yeah,
so
funny.
He's got a point, though. I mean,
tough but fair.
Tough but fair. It's always sad when Leafs fans and Canucks fans bicker at each other, and it happens all the time. I do it all the time.
Yeah, you do.
This is basically the battle to be the second worst losers. I think that's kind of what it's at. Like, not right now. I'm not talking about right now. I'm talking about all time, since the end of the 6-team era, and since the Canucks came into the league. Two rather unsuccessful franchises. There are two glass houses when those fans, there's just hurling rocks back and forth, shattered glass everywhere.
It's a loser fight.
Yeah. Do you think it's a slap fight?
A little bit.
Yeah, a bit of a slap fight.
The slaps that miss the target. Repeatedly.
What are we talking about tonight?
We'll certainly talk a lot of things. We've certainly got a lot on the go.
God, I hate you. I just dislike you.
We're going to talk to Jason Botchford of the province. You're going to handle Botch tonight in the interview. Wait, that was wrong.
I wanted to chime in on that one, and I pulled back.
I'm surprised Bill Clement didn't make an appearance there. You're going to handle Botch tonight.
Oh, man.
No, you're going to, Jason Botchford of the province will join us.
Him.
Yeah, you will interview Botchford in a calm and professional manner. We'll also have Greg Wyshynski, the puck daddy from Yahoo Sports, come on and talk a variety of things, the NHL All-Star Game revamp. He'll talk about the Devils and that tragic loss they had tonight and Ilya Kovalchuk's tragic shootout. You know what? He had interviews this week with Ryan Kessler and Steve Stamkos on Puck Daddy.
Huh. How's he get those interviews and we don't?
I don't know.
Huh.
He said he talked...
Big wheel.
Yeah, Ryan Kessler is very excited for the release of Call of Duty. Do you know what that is?
A video game?
Yeah, good one.
No, I see the ads on TV. They look excited.
The kids and their video games.
Yeah.
On the Sega.
So he's excited about that.
Yeah, and then he also talked to Steve Stamkos about a variety of things, including his regimented diet under Gary Roberts. Apparently Gary Roberts is a real fitness freak.
Yeah, like mega fitness freak.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably gets annoying after a while. It's like, yeah, we get it. You're in really good shape, okay?
He's
Knock
like
it off,
50,
would you?
He's in really good shape.
Yeah.
So we talked to Greg Wyshynski about all that stuff. We'll get into that a little bit later. The Canucks story of the day, the road trip that we were so high on just a couple days ago.
Mm-hmm. 0-1 so far.
0-1, not so good. Not so good. 2-0 loss to Montreal last night. I'm sure the majority of you listening saw it. We actually don't have a ton to say about that game.
No, what can you really say about that game? It was kind of like, it was not a terrible effort. It was not a good effort. It was
ran into a hot goalie.
Yeah.
Anytime you run into a hot goalie, you just throw the hands up. You're like, what are you gonna do? You ran into a hot goalie.
Do you really think they ran into a hot goalie though?
I thought Carey Price played pretty well.
Yeah, but it wasn't like the greatest performance ever achieved by a goalie.
The funny thing is this happened the last time they went to Montreal. Do you remember Yaroslav Halak had a stand on his head performance?
No, that was a stand
on his head performance. Price was very good last night, and he got a lot of help. I think the Habs blocked 21 shots last night, so it was a good team effort.
Yeah, he made a good save off Hamhuis in the slot there.
Yeah, and he made a nice save at the end to preserve the shutout.
Yeah.
So I mean, he played well. But it was, the Canucks have won 6 in a row, so no one's going to go mental that you lose 2-0 in a game where you outshoot the opposition.
You don't know Canucks fans. I'm sure a few people went mental on Luongo.
So we'll look back at last night's game and we'll look forward to tomorrow night's game. All of a sudden, this supposedly easy Eastern road trip that we had talked about, now they're playing an Ottawa team that's white hot at the moment. Jason Spezza's on fire.
Yeah, white hot, but it's the same sort of argument that we made about the Habs. Is like, well, who have they played?
Right.
Their
most recent win coming against Atlanta, hardly a powerhouse.
And then I think there was the Islanders, the Leafs. I think they beat the Habs actually, but
yes, they did.
But again, all Eastern teams. But we made that argument for the Habs, and look what happened. So, I might actually be looking forward to watching an Ottawa Senators game.
Could be interesting.
Could be. Yeah. Huh.
You sold yourself on that one pretty well. Well, I don't know. The big question for tonight, what is wrong with Michael Samuelsson? 2 goals in 14 games. Looks like he's fighting the puck a bit out there. Jason had a lovely post on the Kurtenblog today.
Where I basically...
It was very fair and balanced.
Where I just basically yelled at him. I just yelled at Samuelsson because I think that might be the only way to get a response from him. You have to publicly... humiliate.
Public shaming.
A public shaming.
The only thing I can think of. I'm out of ideas.
Public shaming of Michael Samuelsson. I mean,
no.
Was that Sammy?
No.
Sammy's good people.
He disagrees.
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
How do you get through to a guy like that? You just can't.
No.
We're gonna talk to the automated voice recording of Michael Samuelsson later. No, we will delve into it. I mean, is he just a streaky guy? Is that how his play is going to be for the remainder of his Canucks career? Lest we forget, he's here till 2012. So if he's going to be streaky, we may as well get used to it. Am I right? Anyone? I don't know. We're also going to do NFL Week 10 picks. We're halfway through the NFL season.
I'm not comfortable doing Week 10 picks right now on a Wednesday, but since we don't have a show for the rest of the week, we're taking Friday off because you're going to Louis C.K. or something.
I am. I'm going down to Seattle to see Louis C.K.
Yeah. And maybe we'll play a couple Louis C.K.
I don't know. I don't know if we're allowed to.
Yeah. I think that'd be really
No.
Yeah. Sammy doesn't think that's a good idea.
Sammy thinks the CRTC says no.
No.
But what was I saying? I don't feel entirely comfortable.
It's
making
tough
the
making
picks on a Wednesday.
Yeah, it is. Well, you don't know all the injury reports. There's a possibility of a line move, perhaps,
or a quarterback change. You don't really know. I mean, I heard Alex Smith still might start for the 49ers. I don't want that. If I'm going to pick the Niners, I'll actually take Troy Smith over Alex Smith at this point.
That's fair.
Sad, but fair.
It's fair. Okay, so there are these. We'll call it picks and previews.
Yeah,
look
let's
ahead.
do a preview. Yeah,
we'll give you a couple.
No,
heads
let's
up.
call it guesses and previews because
right.
that's what they are anyway. I mean,
so coming up later in the show are NFL guesses. Mike Marnego, are you ready to make your picks this week?
No.
Feel like we might get some use out of that.
Yes, no, I am.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
But
everyone's
Michael
ready.
Samuelsson isn't.
No.
Everyone's ready to make their guesses this week, except for poor Sammy. He's still on the fence.
He sounds like a donkey there. So
No.
Let's play it.
No.
Yeah.
No. No.
Oh, man. 6 games in the NHL tonight. We already talked about the Leafs losing 4-1 to Florida. Hey, how about those St. Louis Blues? Remember how defensively responsible they were through the first 12 games?
Right.
They only allowed 18 goals over the first 12 games of the year.
And then they allowed 8 tonight.
8-1 to the Columbus Blue Jackets.
I think when the Blues come to your building and you rack up a lot of goals on the Blues, you should do that bell chime.
You hate that bell.
No. I do hate that bell. I hate that
You
bell.
always mention it.
No, because it's annoying because the Canucks have had their problems with the Blues over the last few years. Beat them in the playoffs, but they have had their problems with the Blues. And you go in there and, they score their 5th or 6th goal. It's like 6 dings on that stupid bell. I think Columbus should have been ringing the bell 8 times tonight. I think anytime St. Louis comes in, you have to put it right back in their face.
You know who Columbus did ring the bell of tonight? TJ Oshie.
No, he didn't ring his bell.
No.
He broke his ankle.
Well, I think it occurred when he got hit rather cheaply, I might add.
Right.
And I believe he landed. Don't quote me on this. I'm only on the radio, but don't quote me on this. But I believe in some instance he hurt his ankle during one of these collisions. X-rays revealed that it is broken. TJ Oshie will require surgery. That hurts the Blues because he's their leading scorer, one of their better young players. So a really rough night all around for the Blues. Hey, did you know Mike Gillis is on Twitter?
I did. I saw his first tweet today. It was scintillating.
His first tweet explained that he got a Twitter account.
Yeah.
That was basically it.
I am on Twitter.
You're doing it wrong.
I liked his description in the on Twitter. If you're not familiar, folks, with Twitter, you get a little box where you can describe what you are. I think Mike Gillis was like, Vancouver Canucks GM, former player, former agent, avid cyclist.
Yeah. He just threw that one in there at the end. I like bikes. It was just so random because it was his entire hockey resume, and then it's like, I like bikes. It was very strange.
I think we're going to call him avid cyclist.
Yeah, well, that's the thing now, is his name is no longer Vancouver Canucks GM, Mike
Avid
Gillis.
cyclist
It's
from now on.
Avid cyclist GM, or Twitter enthusiast.
Maybe Lance.
Lance?
Lance Gillis?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Or ACMG?
Sure.
Yeah.
Avid cyclist, Mike Gillis. So if you want to check that out, you can go to Kurtenblog.com. We have a post up today where we go into great detail analyzing Mike Gillis's first tweet. That's what we do for a living, folks. It's sad. It's very, very sad. Big show ahead. If you want to get a hold of us, you can email us live at teamradio.ca. You can hit us at 104040. That is 50 cents a message. Or you can get us on Twitter at twitter.com/Kurtenblog. Coming up, Jason Botchford, the Watchman. We will play the Zeppelin. We'll get them all fired up, and we will talk Canucks. Don't change the dial. Mike Halford, Jason Brough, the Curtain Blog on Team 1040.
By Sports Action Onset. Play Sports Action online at playnow.com.
It's after 10 o'clock on a non-Canucks weeknight, and Led Zeppelin is playing. What are you doing at home? I know what you're about to be doing. Dude. You're about to be joined by Jason Botchford of the Province. Botch, how's it going this evening?
Guys, I'm doing well. What's going on?
Botch, I know it happened yesterday, but I need to get your thoughts on the Keith Ballard healthy scratching. Is that how you say it?
Right.
Healthy scratching?
Scratching, yeah.
Just what you thought of it.
Somewhat healthy scratching.
Yeah. If there might be some implications down the road based on the precedent it's set, I feel like you have some thoughts on this.
Well, I guess for starters, my brain always kind of percolates when I hear a coach say, we're playing the guys who are playing the best right now. It's hard to argue, right? But it's simplistic, and it's a little deceptive because you're not saying we're icing the best team. And it can never be a blanket slogan that you play your squad under, because you can run it up the flagpole when it's convenient, but you can't run your team based on it. There's too many other factors. There's salaries, there's contracts. In college, there's scholarships, and there are players coming back from injuries. And in the Ballard case, you have the injuries. He's had a couple. the hip coming back from that and the concussion, and you got a guy with a big-time salary. You're talking about one of the 30 highest-paid defensemen in the NHL. He also happens to be trying to find his legs after the injury, trying to find his spot, within this new team, within the Canucks, find out how to play, how they expect him to play. He's trying to play the right side. He's played it some in his career, but he seems to be having a little bit of struggles with that. I mean, the guy needs playing time. And he is a legitimate top 4 defenseman in the NHL. These guys just don't go and lose their jobs, It's like a walk-on an NFL training camp doesn't just go up and take the job of the first-round pick after a couple average or decent games. It doesn't happen that way. Cam Newton doesn't go into Florida and take Tim Tebow's job, no matter how good he looks in a game or two. It's just not the way the sporting world operates. So it kind of flies in the face of the way that I understand the sporting world to operate when a mundane, marginal player like Aaron Rome can step up and have a few average games in a row, and somehow now he's playing better, and it's going to be, Keith Ballard, for all intents and purposes, has lost his job for a game or however long to Rome. I have a very difficult time wrapping my head around that one, and I haven't seen it always applied for the Canucks. I didn't see it applied last year when Steve Bernier was kind of put out on the power play for shift after shift after shift. He had 3 power play goals last year. And Alex Burrows had 35 goals. The kid couldn't get on the power play. So it didn't make sense. That was kind of the reverse of what we're seeing now. And I wonder, are the Canucks even going to let a guy like Corey Schneider get on a roll? If he does have a good start, will he get another? Will he get 2 or 3 starts in a row? Or in that case, will the salary structure and the place that Roberto Luongo has on the team trump anything that Corey Schneider does on the ice? And I think that that's an interesting question, and I don't think that this sets up a precedent for the future, which makes me wonder, why now? Why do this now, and why do it to Ballard?
Do you think Alain Vigneault consulted with Mike Gillis before he made the decision, or is that something that they don't do?
Yeah, sure. I'm convinced that they consulted and they talked about it, and I'm sure Lawrence Gilman was involved, and I'm sure Mike was involved, and I heard Mike talk about it a couple of times, and he seemed to take the angle of, Keith Ballard was a guy still suffering some kind of lasting, lingering effects from his injuries, either from the hip in the summer, the surgery that put him on crutches a couple of months, and he's kind of behind because of that. And also the concussion, I guess, which also took 2 weeks out of his progression this year. So that's the kind of direction he pointed it. But yet, Keith asked again and again, said he's healthy, and Alain Vigneault seemed to say the same thing and echo what Keith was saying. So there are some mixed messages there. But I definitely think that, for Alain to do something like that and to scratch a guy who was a big-time premium acquisition in the summer, I mean, they paid a heavy price. Yeah, I know that Grabner didn't work out in Florida, but anytime you're trading a prospect and a number 1 pick, that's a big-time price in the NHL. And a few games in, it's just hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that, Keith Ballard is being scratched for Rome, and some people are saying, well, of course he is. Aaron Rome is part of the number 1 power play in the NHL. Are you kidding me? He has 2 power play assists in his career. Come on, guys.
We're speaking with Jason Bochford of the Province, talking Canucks. Botch, this is maybe a related story, but how patient do you think Alain Vigneault is going to be with Alex Burrows? 4 games now, no points. Healthy scratch time?
We must be getting close. I mean, maybe that's why they called up Mario Bliznak to take Alex Burrows' spot. I mean, come on. That just points, it just underlines the point about how ridiculous it is. And Alex Burrows, he's going to need some time. He's going to need probably a couple, 2-3 weeks to get his wheels under him again. I mean, he missed 4 or 5 months where he wasn't on the ice and he wasn't skating. It's going to take him some while to get up to speed. And the team, it's November. They have the time right now. They're just coming off. That was the other thing of the Ballard thing that I found so curious, was that here's your chance. I mean, you're not desperate for wins. You just won 6 in a row. What better time to, help let Ballard work out his kinks on the ice and in a game. When you are riding high, when you have won 6 in a row and you're getting production from other areas, and you can work him out in and work him up slowly. And I think that they have that advantage with Burrows right now. The way that third line's been clicking, yeah, you're right. He hasn't got any points. The Sedins haven't looked very good on even strength over the past 3-4 games with him in the lineup, other than a few shifts here and there. I mean, he's had his moments. He's had his glimpses. You've seen, oh, yeah, that's Alex Burrows. That's what he brings to the table. But he hasn't been able to do it consistently enough. Yeah, I've had some concern watching that Montreal game. Alex Burrows without a shot? What? And the problem with Burrows is his game, it's hard to hide. When he's not healthy, he has a very difficult style to hide when he's not on and he's not physically healthy. And you saw that in the playoffs where he's playing on a bum shoulder, and it was obvious to everyone that he just wasn't right. And right now, he doesn't have the physical tools that he needs to play his game, controlled mayhem in the corners, lots of action in front of the net, forechecking, the energy, lots of shots on net. He's not getting any of that because he's physically limited, but he needs time, and the team needs to be patient.
Speaking of getting shots on net, I want to talk about Michael Samuelsson.
Yeah.
Because he used to do that, and now not so much. Now, I know Michael Samuelsson is supposed to be streaky, but when he's not on a hot streak, is he supposed to look completely lost out there?
No, I mean, I think that this is a guy that's really struggling right now, and I think that really needs to step back. I mean, if you want to send a message, where Samuelson's kind of struggling, why not put him down? Put him in another situation, because it's not working in the situation that he's in right now. And I think that he's lost out there. I mean, you're right. He's not taking his shots. He's making one too many plays. He's very hesitant in his decision making. He's not hard to play against, and all the things that he was for most of last season. I thought he was pretty consistent last season. He only had the 6 goals the first month. Yeah, he tailed off in November. He only had 4 goals, and then he kind of took off after the snub by the Swedish Olympic team. But overall, you look at it, and I thought he was pretty good from day one to the last day of the season. And I don't know where it is. I'm at a loss for words when it comes to Samuelsson watching him play right now, because I'm not seeing anything resembling the guy that we saw so much of last year.
Botch, the Canucks called up Mario Bliznak today. Is it obvious that the fourth line has not performed as hoped?
Yeah, they don't have a center. I mean, I haven't understood it for a while. I still am a bit confused as to why Joel Perreault, Manitoba's number 1 center, a guy who's played 80-something NHL games, over 250 AHL games. He's one of the best AHL players there is. Manitoba made convinced Vancouver to make a push to sign him to a one-way deal on July 1st. He had another had a contract already signed in a Swiss league, but the one-way contract in the NHL nixed that deal. They wanted him in. They want him to play a top line. Now, did they cut a deal where he's to play in Manitoba all season? I don't know. It sure has seemed like that to me, because I wonder, why not take a chance on Joel Perreault? I thought he looked pretty good in the preseason. Not good enough to make the team, but I thought, all right, here's a guy that they can call up when they don't have a center. When Alex Bolduc goes down, bring up a guy who's played there, who's played the position, and he can be helped out by Rippon and Glass and whoever else you want to play with him on that line. I think you got to have a center there, and I think that was the problem that they had late last year. It was the same thing. The times that Ryan Johnson got hurt, they had Rippon playing out of position. They couldn't trust him to win faceoffs in the defensive zone. So often those guys weren't able to play any minutes at all, and Rip had 3+ minutes the last game. You got to have a center playing that position. We'll see how Bliznak does. He's only had a couple NHL games under his belt. Mike Gillis said that he's outplayed Perreault, and I find that hard to believe, but I'm willing to take his word for it, and let's see what happens.
One last quick question, Botch. Well, actually, this one's hard to make quick, but Cody Hodgson has been playing well in Manitoba. He's a center, leads the move.
Get him up!
I mean, is this something? Do the Canucks want to let Cody Hodgson play in the AHL, kind of find his feet? Yeah, okay, he's had a hot streak, but do they want him to prove it a little bit longer, or was that a move that they'd consider doing, bringing him up right away?
Yeah, I've already seen people say, get him up, get him on the fourth line, get him on the top six after, good 2 weeks or 8 games. This is my point of view, and my point of view, having talked to the people around the Canucks earlier in the year, was that they don't want the guy to be a yo-yo. They don't want him to being called up and put down, called up and put down. They want him down there to play a ton of games. Look, this guy needs minutes. He doesn't need to be up with the Canucks playing 7-8 minutes a game on a fourth-line role. This guy lost an entire year of his career, an entire year of his development. He needs to be down in Manitoba playing, I would suggest 30, 35 games. For me, the 25 would be about the minimum that you'd want him to play, where he's playing big-time minutes in a top-line role there and getting his feel again for the game and getting his take and understanding of the pro game. I thought they rushed Mason Raymond, and it kind of cost him in his development, and he had a real difficult time in the NHL for his first year and a half, first 2 years before he finally got it. And I think that Cody, he's probably, he's a better prospect than Mason Raymond ever was, but it still, to me, means this guy needs games. He needs to be in the AHL. I say leave him down there for 30 games at least before you make any decision on bringing him up to Vancouver.
And we'll end on that. Botch, great stuff tonight. Thanks for coming on the show.
Okay, guys.
Thanks, Botch. Jason Botchford for the Province. Should mention that Jason and all our guests this evening come courtesy of the good folks at Gold Key Volkswagen. Gold Key has won numerous customer service awards, including top Volkswagen dealer in the world. That's the world, Jason.
Just an enormous place, and I'm really proud of it.
When making your next new or pre-owned vehicle purchase, make it as easy as possible with the best customer service in the Lower Mainland. Visit Gold Key today in South Surrey, just off Highway 99 on 152nd Street, or visit them online at goldkey.ca. Coming up on the other side, we talk about the remainder of the Canucks road trip, including their next game in Ottawa. We will preview the Sens. Don't change the dial. Mike Halford, Jason Brough, the Kurtenblog on Team 1040.
You're listening to the Kurtenbloggers. Jason Brough and Mike Halford on Team 1040. Presented by Sports Action Oddset. Play Sports Action online at playnow.com.
The Vancouver Canucks 5-game Eastern road swing began last night, not in great fashion, a 2-0 loss to Les Canadiens. They get a chance to pick themselves back up, though, tomorrow night in Ottawa against the Senators. 6-game winning streak's over, but they can start a new one, Jason, because we were so excited about this road trip at the beginning. We pegged it at 3-1-1.
3-1-1. The Canucks were supposed to go, so they're going to have to get hot if they don't want to let us down. I mean, you don't want to let us down.
Do you have any thoughts from let's start with a little bit last night's game, because we said off the top we don't have a ton to say about this game.
Yeah, very average effort from the Canucks last night.
That was a nice response. You're like, hey, what are you going to say?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
No, I don't know. Yeah, he's very talented. I don't know. But seriously, like an average effort. You've lost.
Sorry, that was really good.
From Goodfellas?
Yeah.
What was that scene from?
He's talking about Sammy Davis Jr. I don't know. I'd go with a guy like him. Yeah, he's very talented.
Very talented.
Okay, continue on with the Habs.
Can you think of one Canuck who stood out in a positive way last night?
No, I had to go to the score sheet to figure it out.
Yeah.
Christian Ehrhoff had 9 shots on goal.
Right. I think that was he might have been one of the stars, but like one of those courtesy stars.
No, hold on. Did you say stood out? Because Andrew Alberts stood out.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I meant in a positive way.
Okay.
Andrew Alberts definitely stood out in a negative way.
Yes.
I mean, I would say the same thing about Michael Samuelsson, who we're going to discuss soon. The Sneens, never looked dangerous, never really got it going. Third line came back to earth. Power play was just off. It wasn't there, Credit to the Habs. I mean, they played well, and Carey Price played well. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure what else to say about the game. Wasn't the most memorable. Wasn't too entertaining. They didn't flash any hot girls in Montreal stands. It was, it was kind of boring. I don't know what to say. Yeah. So on to Ottawa. The Sens are looking good right now. They won 6 of their last 7. Like the Habs, though, you wonder about their strength of schedule. Like who have they beaten? Who their last few games have been against the Leafs, the Habs, the Islanders. What was the last
Thrashers?
The Thrashers. But again, we worried about strength of schedule. We wondered about strength of schedule for the Habs, and that they were all saying that about Carey Price. Well, he hasn't beaten anyone yet. Well, he just shut out the Canucks. So the NHL, there are no easy wins, to throw an awesome cliche.
That was a good one.
The Sens are getting some scoring from Jason Spezza. I think even Alex Kovalev showed up the other night and added a few goals, which was, I think nice of him. Sergei Gonchar has been productive in the attacking zone, not so much the defensive zone, but he's getting points. And they're getting some goaltending from Brian Elliott. Actually, there was a story in the province about Jason Spezza. I think it's going to be in the province tomorrow. Ben Kuzma wrote it. And here's the headline, because I like the headline. Spezza finding his stride, and his smile.
It's nice.
Isn't that nice?
Smiles are free, just like at McDonald's.
Spezza finding his stride and his smile. Let's just hope he doesn't find his laugh. I don't really need to hear that. Have you heard his laugh before?
Yeah, we played it.
We've played his
we
laugh.
played it for Jeff Merrick once.
Yeah, if Mike Martinego was actually listening to the show and doing anything of note, you'd probably find...
You want Spezza's laugh? You think I have these things in my back pocket?
Yeah, I do.
Do you want to fight?
You think I could just automatically produce things?
Oh yeah, it would be nice. It'd be nice to
I'm
have
gonna
a
take
guy
the heat
that's
for it,
like.
okay?
It'd be nice to have a guy that just like listening intently as opposed to just staring off into space and just be like, you know what? They're talking about Jason Spezza's laugh. You know what Jason Spezza's laugh is? It is audio, and I should get that.
Now the awkward pause.
Anyhow.
No.
That's all I got for you.
No.
But Spezza. Let's go back to Spezza while Martinego does whatever he does. You'll remember in the summer
Just
when
playing some Brick Breaker.
Hey, bud.
Remember in the summer when I'm going to try and get the show on its feet.
Jason Spezza.
Yeah. Remember in the summer when everyone thought Spezza would be traded. He wasn't happy. He was hearing it from the fans. So we went and had a little chat with Brian Murray, the general manager. And he actually said he wouldn't object to being traded. And then Murray actually went to the media and said that Spezza said that, which caused a bit of a firestorm. I assume Murray made some calls, couldn't really find a good deal. Spezza's numbers are down. He's got a big contract. So at the end of the day, Spezza stayed. But the interesting part of the story in the province, which you should read because it's a good newspaper,
very good
for it, is when Corey Clouston, the Senators' coach, he calls Spezza a work in progress.
Yeah, I saw that.
Spezza's 27. And I guess, we might laugh at that. It's just like, he's work in progress. He's 27 years old. But I guess the Sedins were kind of a work in progress, weren't they, at 27 years old?
Sure. Some guys just take longer.
Yeah.
It just happens. Spezza I could definitely see as being one of those guys.
But it's funny because Spezza's had, didn't he have like a near 100-point season if he didn't have 100 points? Yeah. So it's funny because you'd have called the Sedins a work in progress because they were still kind of like point-a-game guys, and it almost seemed like they had plateaued at, 81 points a season. But Spezza had these huge seasons with Danny Heatley, and now maybe what Clouston's saying is that Spezza is trying to get better in his own end.
Yeah.
And I think that's something he's doing. So he's a work in progress in that area.
If you look at his numbers, they're really, really solid. He's over a point-a-game guy for his career. He's plus 80 for his career. He's had the benefit of playing on Senators teams, aside from that 1 year where they did make the playoffs, from being pretty solid teams that scored a lot of points. He played with Alfie, played with Heatley, as you mentioned. He's had injury problems. I think that's been a big issue with his. He hasn't been 100% healthy, and I think a lot more was expected of him. And that's the big problem. Was he was a second overall pick.
Yeah.
There was a lot expected of the guy. He was supposed to be a guy that was going to carry a franchise. You remember the hype that he had when he was coming out of junior, and what he's been in the NHL is a scorer. That's really what he's been. He's been a stat guy.
Playmaker.
A Dino Ciccarelli, if you will. He's been a guy that puts up points and doesn't really He's been to a Stanley Cup final, but I wouldn't say he was leading the charge by any stretch.
Would you say he's kind of like Brad Richards that way?
A little bit, yeah. Except Richards won a Conn Smythe.
Right.
So that was a big difference.
Yeah. That is a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, Spets is just a guy that is he's a statistics guy. He's a hockey pool guy, basically. He's a guy that you can draft in a hockey pool, and you know he's probably going to get you a point a game. If he plays 60 games, he'll get you 60 points.
Mm-hmm.
Plays 80, he'll get you 80, and that's kind of what he is. Can he carry a team? I don't know. I would be very curious to see what happens when Alfie leaves, and it's all of a sudden he's the face of Ottawa's franchise.
He's an interesting character, though. You know how we've chatted before about how players have to ignore what's being written about them, what the papers are writing about them, what they're saying on TV, what people are saying on Twitter or whatever. Mm-hmm. Spezza's basically the poster boy for letting what's written and said about him get to him. If you I actually did this today. I Googled the word Spezza and sensitive. And you would not believe the number of matches. Like, it's just like Spezza, the sensitive senator or the ultra-sensitive senator. He's just a super sensitive guy. And when the fans were booing him last year, catcalling him, getting on him, he just totally took it to heart. And that was one of the reasons why he went in and talked to Murray, because he didn't know how to handle it, I think. So he's working on that, too. That's another, work in progress. Try not to let that sort of stuff get to him. He might, speaking to Sedins, he might actually do well to sit down with those guys one day and hey, how did you deal with this? Because, the Sedins certainly took their fair share of abuse, and they took a while to really, find themselves in the NHL. And I know they were sensitive, too, about what was being written about them. And, you hear all these stories about, the Sedins were ready to go home to Sweden, but they stuck it out. That was just the worst timed Spezza laugh I've ever heard in my life. Trying to
Can't be real.
Trying to be somewhat serious about Spezza, like, I wonder if he'll really find his game. Yeah. Thanks a lot for that. You're not the worst producer in the business for nothing.
And on that note, we're going to go on a break. On the other side, Michael Samuelsson, what's wrong with him? Do we need to start yelling at him just to get results? We'll answer that question and a whole lot more. Don't change it down. Mike Halford, Jason Brough, the Kurtenblog on Team 1040.
You're listening to the Kurtenbloggers. Jason Brough and Mike Halford on Team 1040. Presented by Sports Action Props. Check out the complete Sports Action Props menu at bclc.com/sportsaction.
So we wrote a post today at Kurtenblog.com. You can check it out at Kurtenblog.com about Michael Samuelsson. It was basically pointing the finger, saying you need to play better, possibly wagging the finger.
Yelling.
Stern. It was yelling.
Yeah.
So a couple different websites from Detroit picked it up. Samuelsson obviously being a former wing. And I guess they got a little carried away because they started saying, like, maybe Samuelsson's available. Maybe we can get him back. And then they started asking if they could trade him for Yuri Hudler, at which point everything just went out of control and people started saying, you know what, it was actually... What do we take? Do we take Samuelsson's streakiness or do we take Hudler's streakiness? And then they were saying, I think we take Samuelsson's streakiness. They like Samuelsson was the overriding theme of this story. And they said, sometimes you just have to live with what he is, as a third-line guy who's very streaky. And so that's what I'm wondering now about Michael Samuelsson. Is this just kind of par for the course with him? What he's experiencing right now, 2 goals in his last 14 games, looks very discombobulated right now. Is having a hard time of it. Is this just part of the package?
You hope so. 2 goals, on pace for 12. Mm-hmm. He had 30 last year. You hope it's just a matter of being streaky because that means he'll get hot eventually. I don't know. Who knows? That it doesn't make it any less frustrating to watch the guy. We had Jason Botchford on earlier, and we were talking about Michael Samuelsson. He just looks lost out there. Not Botch, Michael Samuelsson. But
Botch is totally composed.
Yeah, Botch is fine, but no purpose to Samuelsson's game. He makes a couple neat passes once in a while. I think he did a little between the legs pass in Montreal that was okay. But he's not getting as many shots on goal. His last goal was a tip. It was a tip-in. So, he's only shot the puck once and had a goal once, and that was against Carolina, I think. So that was a while ago. And, you got to look past the stats. If you just watch him play, you can see he's just generally fighting the puck. Last night against Montreal, a couple times the puck, it just hopped right over his stick. The puck was coming over his stick. It hopped right over his stick, or I don't know, it might have been under his stick or through his stick. Not sure. He's fighting the puck. That's my point. And we kind of do risk singling out Samuelsson here because the whole second line really is struggling. I mean, they've had their moments, I suppose, this year, but especially on the road. That second line of Ryan Kessler in the middle, Samuelsson, and Mason Raymond on the wing has really been struggling.
Yeah, the numbers are staggering because in 7 games at home, that line has 9 goals, 11 assists, and is a plus 12.
So that's not bad.
And then on the road, 1 goal, 3 assists, and minus 14.
So that's not
it almost doesn't. At home, Kessler, Samuelsson, and Raymond have 9 goals, 11 assists, and a plus 12 rating. On the road, Kessler, Samuelsson, and Raymond have 1 goal, 3 assists, and a minus 14. That doesn't make any sense at all.
There's an article in the Vancouver Sun that talks about the second line scoring woes, and they had Samuelsson quoted in it, and here's what Samuelsson had to say today. We have things we have to improve, but the most important thing is we have to come together as a line. It's a little bit of a one-man show right now. We have to use each other. That's the key. You could expect a little better out of us, that's for sure.
Now, I think that we should let Samuelsson... I think we should definitely let Samuelsson have his say. Do you have something for us?
No, he just had his say, but I guess he didn't do it. He didn't. We're gonna make fun of Samuelsson.
Yeah, here's some Samuelsson audio.
This is what we're gonna do now. This is what the show is. This is what the show is. Making fun of the way a guy speaks. This is what it's been.
No, it's not. we do this because we like him. I like him.
I haven't.
No. No, he's I should say he beat and he's I should say like he's I really like him as a player. Yeah. No, I don't know. Like
the Samuelsson mega mix will never die.
I feel like he was a lot more composed in the newspaper quote.
It's like he got all those words out in time.
Yeah, it's just, it's like, we have things we have to improve. He didn't talk like that, yeah.
Okay, back on the serious tip for a second. Can I throw out the fact that Samuelsson did go 14 games last year without scoring a goal? I think a lot of people overlook that because his year was so good. He also had a streak of 9 games where he scored 11 goals. So if you think about it, nearly a third of his goals last year came in a 10-game, 11-game span. So... is he the kind of guy that goes out there every night and looks like a capable second liner who's going to score 30 goals? No. I think that's part of the problem, really, is his year last year probably set expectations a little too high for him. I don't think he's a 30-goal guy. I think he's a lot closer to a 20-goal guy a year. If you look at the stats throughout his career, they would certainly validate that.
If that's the case, then he's got to do a lot more other things better.
Absolutely, I agree with you 100% that he doesn't look comfortable.
No, he's not winning battles. Like Botch said, he's just not hard to play against. He'd be easy to play against. He doesn't look fast. I mean, he's not the greatest skater in the world, but God, he's not that slow, is he? I mean, anyway, it'll be interesting to watch Michael Samuelsson because, like we said, he has been known to be streaky. He was streaky last year. When he came to Vancouver, a lot of the Red Wings people we talked to said, "Oh, watch out for this guy. He's really streaky." Mm-hmm. So there is reason for optimism that he'll get better soon. But right now, he looks as bad as I've ever seen him. So there's something to be said for that.
No, absolutely, and I agree 100%. Hopefully, it's part of his character. These streaks and inconsistencies come and go, but you got to be concerned because the play on the ice does look discombobulated. We're going to break on the other side. Greg Wyshynski, the puck daddy from Yahoo Sports, will join us. We'll talk a bunch of stuff that he featured on his site this week, the NHL All-Star Game being pretty prevalent, and an interview that he did on his radio show with Vancouver Canucks forward Ryan Kessler. So you want to hear about that. Don't change the dial. Mike Halford, Jason Brough, the Kurtenblog on Team 1040.
No.
You're listening to the Kurtenbloggers. Jason Brough and Mike Halford on Team 1040. Presented by Sports Action Props. Check out the complete Sports Action Props menu at vclc.com/sportsaction.
11:05 in the evening, 1 hour through KB Radio with Mike Halford and Jason Brough. Joining us now, one of our favorite guests on KB Radio. You can check out his work at the Puck Daddy blog at Yahoo Sports. It is Greg Wyshynski, the Puck Daddy from Yahoo Sports. Greg, how you doing this evening?
That's going well, boys. How are you?
We are well. How are things in Devils land right now? Obviously, the Devils lost a tough one tonight, 5-4 to the Sabres. But I guess the big story was Ilya Kovalchuk's shootout attempt. I'll go with attempt, but why don't you walk us through it and give us your reaction post-game?
Are you kidding me? The big story is that they got a point.
That is true.
Which is something new and exciting for the team. The Sabres had a one-goal advantage in the shootout. The Kovalchuk needed to score to extend the overtime. And as he was going in to face the Buffalo goaltender, who was not Ryan Miller, but the kid with all the consonants in his name, Kovalchuk didn't even get a shot off. The puck just pathetically dribbled off his stick. And it was by far the single most anticlimactic shootout attempt I think I've ever seen. It was not even a shot. It was just literally the puck rolled off his stick, and then no one knew what to do because it wasn't really like a shot. But then there was your ball game, and that combined with a breakaway earlier in the game where Kovalchuk had the game on his stick and then shot the puck. I mean, I think he banked it off the Hubble. He shot it so high. It was, as I said on the blog, I think it was the nadir of his tenure with the Devils. It was the lowest possible point you could get. No points, -1, and unable to even get a shot off in the shootout.
How much vitriol is coming Kovalchuk's way right now?
Well, there's definitely some booing. I mean, there was definitely some booing in New Jersey. I mean, it's this kind of game that really gets you. You know, you watch any of these Devils games that they're losing, Kovalchuk does some good things. You can see that he's trying to create offense. He's got great vision on the ice. He's making smart passes and that kind of thing. But you got to put the puck in the net. And the bottom line is that he doesn't have a goal now in 7 straight. He has 3 goals in the season. And when Brodeur's hurt and when Parise's hurt, and when the Devils score 4 goals in a game against Buffalo, and 1 goal, whether it's a goal that he creates or a goal that he scores, could be the difference between defeat and victory. You gotta find a way to get a point. And you know, when you are earning that money, when the team has committed that much money to you in the years, and you've been brought on board to be that kind of an offensive difference maker, you got to get a point. You got to make a difference, and he didn't make a difference.
Now, Kovalchuk has been an all-star numerous times in the National Hockey League, and that ties nicely into the other big news of the day, which is the National Hockey League has revamped the all-star game. Why don't you run through this for us, kind of give us an overview of, I guess it's the playground selection, or maybe the Wonder Years PE class selection style. Paul Pfeiffer going last overall, of course. What's the revamp all about, and give us your thoughts. Do you like it? Do you hate it? What's the deal?
Well, you really tapped into something because the winning team does get Winnie Cooper, which I thought was a nice addition to the All-Star game. Basically, like you said, it's pick-up hockey. I mean, the way it's going to work is that the NHL is going to have a pool of 42 players, including 6 that the fans vote in, and then those players are going to nominate a captain and 2 alternate captains for the 2 All-Star teams. And then there's going to be a fantasy draft, and those 2 teams are going to draft players one by one. A coin toss will determine who goes first, and then they keep going until those teams are selected. And then there's going to be a pool of 12 rookies that will then be drafted for the skills competition. They got rid of the rookie game, so now the kids are in the skills competition. So that's how it's going to work. The immediate speculation, of course, is will this be the next chapter in the Sidney Crosby versus Alex Ovechkin forced rivalry?
Right.
I tend to believe that the players are going to not go down that road. I think that there's a much better chance a guy like Nick Lidstrom gets a chance to be the big cheese on one of these teams and do the fantasy draft thing. So So there's your new game. No more East versus West. No North America versus the world. No Team Yager versus Team Yashin. You get these two fantasy teams facing off against each other in Carolina.
Now, what do you think of the idea? Because I like it at first because it actually makes an otherwise useless weekend somewhat interesting. I guess it's to see who would get picked last. That's obviously the sadistic part of it. But I think it's interesting because it could, I mean, you almost got to think that it could create not huge controversy, but some little controversies along the way. Because if a guy gets overlooked for a while, I mean, you know, he's going there to be an all-star. He doesn't really want his ego getting bruised.
Well, you've just said some interesting things, and it's actually a couple of things that I think don't work about the idea. The fact is that they're doing this fantasy draft the Friday of All-Star Weekend. And so you've got the draft, then you got the skills competition, then you got the All-Star game. There's no time to even have those debates. There's no time to have that over-analysis or to really hype up the soap opera of the whole thing. If they had done this thing like a week beforehand, well, then you get a whole week of people bugging Alex Ovechkin about why he drafted Backstrom over Semin and that kind of thing. There's just no time for that to really work because boom, 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 you're into the All-Star weekend. So that's one problem with it. And the other problem with it is that, you know, Brendan Shanahan, who's the catalyst for this whole thing, was asked today during a conference call about the whole who gets to be Mr. Irrelevant, who gets picked last kind of thing. And they're hypersensitive about it. The players don't care. The players think it's kind of funny if they're like the last pick. They're still an all-star. But the NHLPA has always been very cognizant of not making their players look bad in this manner. And it sounds like they're going to come up with a way so there isn't one guy standing against the wall at the end of the draft. It might be a thing where like the last four people get announced at the same time, that sort of thing.
Wow, I didn't realize they were so sensitive to the issue. That's hilarious. I mean, I could see the optics why they wouldn't, but I mean that's the natural part of this, isn't it?
It's weird because Shanahan said the players don't mind, like they think it's kind of a goof, but they don't necessarily want to make anybody feel bad. I guess it's one of those, you know, not in keeping of the spirit of the All-Star game to make someone, you know, to single someone out like that or what have you, but. I mean, that's what they said. They were asked specifically about that, and they said it's not going to work that way. The other thing that bothers me about it is that the fan vote is now completely irrelevant. And yeah, listen, fan votes are what they are. People just think that they're dumb anyway. But I mean, I happen to think that when you have an All-Star game, it is a chance for fans to feel like they're making a difference. And they're going to vote in 6 players to be starters, and they're not even starters. They're just thrown into the pool of the 42 players. You know, they might start, but they might not, and it renders the entire fan voting process immaterial unless it's going to be one of these like joke votes, like Roy Fitzpatrick or Paul Bissonnette. I mean, that's the only reason why the fans would matter now.
We're speaking to Greg Wyshynski, the Puck Daddy from Yahoo Sports. Greg, speaking of potential all-stars, a couple of really cool interviews on Puck Daddy Radio this week. The first with Vancouver's very own Ryan Kessler. What were some of the highlights from speaking with Kess this week?
He's very excited about the release of Call of Duty Black Ops.
Is he?
I think that goes without saying. He's an interesting cat. You know, he's one of these guys that I think has a lot to say about the league. Seemed pretty excited about 3-on-3 overtime. Seemed fairly happy with some of the rules that are being put in place. And when we spoke to him about this whole notion of you know the crackdown on being a pest and that sort of thing, he's an interesting dude. And I think what makes him interesting is that he can kind of straddle the line between being a solid offensive player and a responsible defensive player, and then also kind of getting into some of the shady stuff as well.
And speaking of potential all-stars you had on the show, Steve Stamkos also appeared, the NHL's leading point getter, off to another amazing start. What were some of the things you went over with Stamkos, and what did you glean from him?
It was a long Q&A that ran on Puck Daddy, and you can still find it there.
Right.
It was a really fascinating conversation. I think what I learned from Stamkos, and this is probably true for any of these really great young players that are in the league, is just how much damn work went into it. I mean, you look at the way he plays, and you automatically think that he was born with that shot. I mean, the way he just kind of does the Brett Hull thing on the power play where he's floating around and can get the one-timer off in almost any position, and it's just lethal. But when he was a kid, he was a real good skater, and he had great hockey sense, but he didn't have a shot. So, you know, him and his father would go to the rink. He would go on synthetic ice. He would fire 500 pucks at a time, and he would develop the shot. And And he says it's like a golfer. There's mechanics to it. It's something you always have to kind of tweak and work on. And the other thing about Stamkos I thought was interesting was, everybody's learned that he's trained with Gary Roberts the last couple of summers and really kind of bulked up and gotten stronger. But he said the key to the whole Gary Roberts workout thing isn't like the Rocky IV using a weighted sled up the mountains kind of thing. It's the diet. He says the toughest thing about it is the diet. It's a very, very restrictive diet, tuna, chicken, that kind of thing. And being a kid that young and quite frankly that rich, it sucks that you can't go get a Big Mac at 2 a.m. with your buddies. You know what I mean? So it's these little levels of commitment that we don't necessarily see on the ice that have to happen off the ice, and that was the real eye opener for me with Stamkos.
Some awesome stuff from Greg Wyshynski, the Puck Daddy from Yahoo Sports, talking about his interviews with Ryan Kessler and Steve Stamkos midweek. On the other side of the break, we'll come back, and Greg will join us to talk a couple more things, including the St. Louis Blues, who are off to a great start before tonight's 8-1 thrashing at the hands of the Columbus Blue Jackets. And we'll also talk about an interesting report from Media Week suggesting that the ESPN could be making a large-scale bid for NHL television rights in the not-too-distant future. So you're going to want to stick around for that. Don't change the dial. Mike Halford, Jason Brough, the Kurtenblog on Team 1040.
You're listening to the Kurtenbloggers. Jason Brough and Mike Halford on Team 1040. Presented by Sports Action Props. Check out the complete Sports Action Props menu at bclc.com/sportsaction.
We're back with Greg Wyshynski, the Puck Daddy from Yahoo Sports. Now, I wanted to talk to Greg about the St. Louis Blues because they got off to a tremendous start, and they wrote about them on Puck Daddy this week. And then, of course, the St. Louis Blues go out and get shellacked 8-1 tonight by the Columbus Blue Jackets and lose TJ Oshie for an undetermined length of time. The post on Puck Daddy was titled, 5 Reasons the St. Louis Blues Are Shocking the Western Conference. Now, I wanted to ask Greg if he could explain to me what the other 4 were, because outside of Jarro Halak, I really couldn't come up with one.
Well, I think in classic Blues form, they started reading their own press clips. We weren't the only one to write the in praise of the Blues thing. I mean, they had one regulation loss this year, which was pretty remarkable until this Blue Jackets game. Besides Halak, I think that they've got the way I termed it was this team and its roster and its construction is basically Brian Burke's wet dream. Like it's what he's tried to achieve with the Leafs, but has been unable to. I mean, strong goaltending, very, very good, solid defense, and then a collection of gritty forwards, truculent, if you will, that can knuckle up or put the puck in the net if they need to. And the Blues kind of have this really solid collection of that kind of player that work well in Davis Payne's system. The other thing I thought was sadly underreported about their start was the fact that the marketing department had made this guarantee to the fans, at least about 1,000 of them, that half of their season ticket price wouldn't have to be paid if the Blues didn't make the playoffs. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, no, I do remember that.
They had a special ticket offer where you put one half of your deposit down, you pay the second half if the Blues make the playoffs, and then lo and behold, the Blues get out to 20 points in 12 games. And I'm just thinking to myself, well, there's a carrot.
Yeah.
the finances of the club being on the line, and knowing that whether or not you make or miss the playoffs. So I thought that was. I'm sure it's something the players are cognizant of. I don't think it's the main motivator, but at least something that they probably know about.
Now, you mentioned Davis Payne. How big a role do you think he's playing in this? Because I think he's a guy that gets overlooked a lot. He wasn't very hyped when he took over the team last year. But you look at his splits over last year and what he's done at the beginning of this year. They've got a great winning percentage under him, and they are winning a lot of games without a lot of star profile and a lot of high goal scorers. How do you rate the job that he's done so far?
Well, it's a combination of a couple of things. First off, there's now a grand tradition in the NHL of these AHL coaches coming up in an interim role and then, basically continuing the success in their second season. Bylsma, Boudreau, Klooston being another one. I mean, it's kind of this trend that we've seen in the last couple of years. And then the other thing about Payne that I think is interesting is that it kind of speaks to what it is about this Blues roster that I think has made them a successful team this early this season, these guys all came up together. I mean, Payne being in the AHL, obviously having been around camp for a few years and that sort of thing, a lot of these players are of the same age. They all kind of came up together. I think there's a certain communal aspect to this team with Payne as their coach that they certainly didn't have with a slightly older gentleman by the name of Andy Murray as their coach. So I think that kind of ties into it, too, that I don't want to say he's one of the guys, but he's clearly closer in age and in experience to the players on this roster than the previous coach was.
Let's shift gears for a sec over to the Hockey Hall of Fame. This year's induction class, a little light on NHLers, only Dino Ciccarelli making the cut. Can you explain to us what happened with the voting snafu? I know Pierre Lebrun from ESPN sort of brought this to everyone's attention earlier this weekend. And then were you surprised that it cost a couple guys, and who were the guys that you surprised that it cost?
Well, I don't know. I mean, Pierre is the guy that knows that crap. I mean, he evidently people thought there was going to be extra rounds of voting. There wasn't extra rounds of voting, and then Ciccarelli was the only guy who made the cut. I think the real issue is that you've got a lot of guys that are A-, and that kind of siphon votes from each other. I mean, you have a lot of guys in this recent class, Nieuwendyk, Gilmore, Bure, Oates, that all have their champions. There isn't one clear-cut guy that there's a lot of rallying behind for various reasons. So it didn't really shock me, to be honest with you, that there was only one guy. I just think that you have a lot of guys that, like I said, have their own little pockets of support and don't necessarily have the majority support to get through. I mean, the only guy that I thought might have had it this past year was Nieuwendyk, but maybe he got screwed over by this voting snafu, but it is what it is. I mean, look, if Ciccarelli's making the Hall of Fame, I know he's got the numbers, then you can make the argument for about 5 of the other guys that are in the debate to make the Hall of Fame, too.
Okay, I'm glad you said that because we've talked about this throughout the week, and Jason brought it up, too, saying that, Dino Ciccarelli, a great player and everything, but no cups, no notable trophies, and he basically made it in on stats. I thought the general idea with the Hockey Hall of Fame more recently was to make induction more difficult, which I guess in one sense it is because only one guy gets in, but then it's Joe Nieuwendyk. Where do you see it right now? Do you think they're making it tougher for guys to get in the Hall of Fame? Because there was a time where the Gartners and the Howard Chucks and the Federkos, I think they all got in within a 2-year span.
Yeah, Federico was the guy when we talked about the Hall of Fame thing on the Puck Daddy radio show, was the guy that I would take out. I mean, and that's just me being an elitist East Coaster that had Sports Channel America growing up and didn't get to see the Blues a lot. He was never, I think, top 2 in any offensive category. He never won any kind of award. He obviously never won a cup. There was, all the intangibles that we talk about weren't there for him. Are they making it tougher? I don't know. I mean, it's a little late. To be honest with you, when you've got some of the guys that have already made the cut in there. I don't know. To me, the Hall of Fame is a tough animal to figure out because at the end of the day, it's politics, right? I mean, there had to be some contrition on the part of Ciccarelli to make the cut for the Hall of Fame. Lindros is a guy that I think, for his era was one of the top 3 most dominant players, but he certainly has to kiss a few backsides before he can get into the Hall of Fame. So it's, you try to compare it to what baseball is. I mean, baseball, I think they try to do what they can to make it, at least the first ballot, try to make it as elite as possible. The Veterans Committee always winds up sending in guys that don't belong there. But in hockey, it's like you almost feel like sometimes it's just like, okay, who would I like to have a beer with next year? When they come back for induction weekend, and when that's your standard, it's kind of tough to really take a lot of this debate seriously.
We're speaking to Greg Wyshynski, the Puck Daddy from Yahoo Sports. Greg, interesting article that ran on Puck Daddy this week and also appeared in Media Week, a report that ESPN is prepared to launch a large-scale bid for NHL TV rights. What are you hearing on this front?
You see, that Media Week piece was sort of out of left field. Like, I figured that ESPN is going to be in the hunt for the rights, and the NHL will do nothing to run away from that because it's only going to increase their rights fee. I'm just trying to figure out exactly what ESPN can offer the NHL as far as the amount of airtime they can receive that's going to get anywhere close to what Versus has given them. Because the bottom line is that Versus is putting on a good number of games. They're now going to do this nightly, Monday through Thursday, hockey talk show from 11 to midnight Eastern time every day, so that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
And they put the draft on, they put the awards on. ESPN for all the stuff they can offer the league as far as cross promotion and that sort of thing, they've got a lot of other properties that take up a lot of other hours on that network, and I'm not quite sure exactly what the NHL would get from what big slice from that pie they'd get.
Well, it's funny they mention that because I think the NHL has always maintained a pretty good public front that they're happy with the coverage they're getting on Versus and they're happy with the agreement. But do you think if they had an opportunity to go at ESPN that they would do it just because I think Bettman would want to appease some of his owners that way? Do you think that's the big dangling carrot there?
Well, there's no question that the owners, there's a lot of owners that want the sport back on ESPN, and there's a lot of players that want the sport back on ESPN. Even with the advances that Versus has made as far as clearance and being in all the hotel rooms, let's say, for example, that they weren't in 2 years ago, the ESPN is still the leader, and there's a notion that the NHL is at a place now with the amount of young stars that they have, with a property like the Winter Classic, where it's a different deal than it was back in the early part of last decade when it was still kind of trap hockey. You didn't have Crosby, you didn't have Ovechkin, and things were a lot different. So, if anything, there's a notion that the NHL might get a little bit more respect from ESPN if they go back now, just because the game has changed so much.
Greg, awesome stuff tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of the week and all the games this weekend, and we'll talk to you again soon, hopefully next week.
Brilliant. Thank you, boys.
Greg Wyshynski, the Puck Daddy from Yahoo Sports. Special thanks to Greg and all our guests. Should mention that all our guests are brought to you by the good folks at Gold Key Volkswagen. Gold Key has won numerous customer service awards, including top Volkswagen dealer in the world. That's the world, Jason. I know it is. When making your next new or pre-owned vehicle purchase, make it as easy as possible with the best customer service in the Lower Mainland. Visit Gold Key today in South Surrey, just off Highway 99 on 152nd Street, or visit them online at goldkey.ca. Coming up, NFL Week 10 picks. Guesses, but picks. Mike Halford, Jason Brough, the Kurtenblog on Team 1040.
Listening to the Kurtenbloggers, Jason Brough and Mike Halford on Team 1040, presented by Sports Action Props. Check out the complete Sports Action Props menu at bclc.com/sportsaction.
Week 10 of the National Football League. I am very excited. Even though it's Wednesday, it's a little earlier than usual for our NFL picks. We're rolling with it. We're going to do it. We're going to get these right, Jason. Feel it. Woo!
I'm not feeling it.
Okay.
I'm
not.
What was I, 4-7-2 against the spread last week? I told you I wasn't confident.
I did not fare much better. How did you do last week, Martinego? Did you keep track?
You know what? I unfortunately didn't.
Oh.
I think I had 3 or 4 victories.
That is fantastic.
Yeah. So when you asked me how did I do, yeah, I kind of know.
You know.
Yeah, it was 3 or 4 wins.
So if you want to wager on these games, head to playnow.com. Check out all the sports action lines on these games. You can also check out the sports action props, which we've been doing throughout the week. We'll tell you about that a little bit later on, but for now, these lines all courtesy sports action. You want to get into it?
Yeah, people can just do the opposite, George.
Oh, yeah, that's always a good one, too.
Yeah, just go against
Take the Kurtenblog advice, do the opposite.
Yeah.
Except when we split on a game, then they're screwed.
Right, then just don't bet on it.
Let's start with those Seattle Seahawks. Oh, those Seattle Seahawks. Where do we begin? Other than the fact that they are 4-4. They travel to Arizona this weekend to take on the 3-5 Cardinals. The Cardinals, a 2.5-point favorite.
Yeah, I'm not betting on Seattle. I will not bet on a team that just got smoked in Oakland, smoked at home to the Giants. Everything seems to be going wrong. This might be one of those, hey, maybe they'll bounce back because, it's a big divisional matchup and this is an important game. No, they're just a bad football team right now. 2.5 points is the line. I mean, that's give me the Cardinals. The Cardinals, they're not a good football team either, but they're better than the Seahawks right now, and plus they're playing at home.
The Cardinals have kept the last 2 losses that they've had close.
Right.
Narrow loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. heartbreaking loss to the Minnesota Vikings. Blew a 14-point lead with 5 minutes left. The Seattle Seahawks are horrible right now. They're horrible right now. They've been outscored 74-10 in consecutive weeks. They've given up over 1,000. I don't think they're doing 1,000 yards in offense. I don't think they're doing anything right now. So
I think even the kicker's struggling, isn't he?
Olindo?
Yeah, he was like the kind of the all-star of the team, and then
like Paul McCallum.
Right, yeah. Right, yeah.
Brough has the Cardinals. I have the Cardinals. Martinego?
I love the Seahawks, but I have to go with the Cardinals on
Clean
this one.
sweep for the Redbirds, for the Arizona Redbirds. Moving along. Hey, special Thursday nighter this week. We finally get some Thursday night football. I like the Thursday night game. Do you? Do you care for the Thursday nighter?
Well, I probably won't watch it tomorrow.
No. The idea of the Thursday night.
The idea of the
yeah.
Thursday night.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's
More
more
football.
stuff. I don't have a very exciting life, you see. So the more sports on TV, the better, or else I go crazy.
Before we get into the pick, tomorrow night, Vancouver and Ottawa, hockey.
Right.
Baltimore, Atlanta, football.
Right.
Montreal, Boston, hockey.
Right.
And Boston, Miami, basketball, all on TV tomorrow night. Huge night.
That Boston-Miami basketball game will be well watched in Vancouver.
Yeah, you know how basketball gets them going in Vancouver.
With all those options to choose, I'm sure they'll choose the NBA.
Yeah.
Back to the NFL picks. The 6-2 Baltimore Ravens travel to Atlanta to take on the 6-2 Falcons. Falcons a slim half-point favorite at home. Jason, who you got?
This is a tough one here because it's Joe Flacco versus Matt Ryan, and they're basically long-lost twins. They're both 25 years old. They're both in their third year. Their stats are pretty much the same. I mean, both these teams are 6-2. I think this might be a close game.
Hey.
But I like the Falcons at home. Only 1 point at home. I'll take the Falcons by 1.
I've got the Ravens here. I like what they did last week against Miami. Played some great defense, spread out the offense. I just think that they're a better team overall than Atlanta. That's really what it comes down to. Atlanta's been good, but they've also had a couple of performances that made me wonder about them. I don't like Atlanta's defense. I think that'll be the big difference. I think that Baltimore's got the better defense, and they'll win on that. I do think it'll be close, though. I think this could be a game decided by a field goal, but I like the Ravens to do it. Marnego, who you got?
I'm going to go with the Falcons on this one.
Oh,
Damn
alrighty
it.
then. Moving ahead.
Yeah, I lose.
We both do.
Moving ahead to the weekend, the 5-3 Indianapolis Colts host the 2-6 Cincinnati Bengals. Colts 6.5-point favorite. Jason.
I've got a Peyton Manning theory because remember we were talking about Peyton Manning last week, and it was, if Peyton Manning's getting points, take them. Even though he was on the road in Philly, he was getting 2.5 points. What does he do? He puts together like a last-minute drive, covers the spread. They still lose by 2, but he covers the spread. That's the kind of guy Peyton Manning is. I think the only way I would bet against Peyton Manning is if the Colts were getting points on the road. You see what I mean? So if he's getting points on the road, I bet on Peyton Manning. If whatever the spread is in Indianapolis, I bet on Peyton Manning, and I only maybe consider it if he has to give some points on the road.
So you're taking the Colts.
I'm taking the Colts in a roundabout way.
I'm just taking the Bengals strictly to cover here. I don't think Indy can handle having all these injuries for much longer. Austin Collie got knocked out. Did you see that hit?
It was a
vicious hit. Yeah. Austin Collie got knocked out of the game. That's another receiver down. No Dallas Clark. Joseph Adai's banged up. Too many injuries for this team. I think they'll keep it close. I think it may be a Vinatieri field goal that wins it, but I think the Bengals have played lots of teams close this year. The Bengals haven't been blown out once. I think they'll hang around. They won't win, but they'll cover the 6.5. I've got the Bengals. Brough has the Colts. Martinego.
Just call me and Brough 0 for 3 because I got the Colts.
Injuries don't matter to Peyton Manning. He turned us into receivers.
Well, last week wasn't great. He didn't have great numbers last week. 2 interceptions.
In a bizarre twist.
Covered the spread, baby. That's all that matters.
I was watching that. I was gritting my teeth.
In a bizarre twist, I said the exact same thing as Brough just said on Sunday. Watching the Colts and Eagles. I said you could put me in that offense and I'd somehow have 100 yards for the day.
You'd be quite badly injured, though.
I would.
With the hits.
A tall receiver, though. Not bad,
yeah.
right?
Would you go over the middle?
Big target. I don't know.
Another sideline route.
A game that I think no one in Vancouver will be paying attention to. The 4-4 Jacksonville Jaguars host the 4-4 Houston Texans. The Jaguars a 1.5-point favorite. I'll start this one off. I like the Texans here. I hate the Jaguars. I think I mentioned that a couple times on the show. I don't think they're a very good football team. I know David Garrard looked good against the Cowboys 2 weeks ago, but that was the Cowboys. I don't trust David Garrard at any time where I'd have to wager on him. The Texans are a better team. They're more talented. They have a better offense, and I think they're more desperate to win this game. I think the Texans have more pressure on them to make the playoffs this year than the Jaguars do. I will take the Texans plus 1.5 in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I don't like Jacksonville's defense at all, and I think Houston's definitely got some playmakers on offense, Foster, and they don't throw the ball too badly either.
Yeah.
I like your pick, Texans.
Texans and Texans, Martinego.
Trezos.
Nice. One more before we go to break. The Miami Dolphins, a confusing team this year, really tough team to figure out. They're at home. They're 4-4. They're hosting the Tennessee Titans, who are at 5-3. Who are favored by 0.5 point, and who have Randy Moss in the lineup this weekend. Really interesting game. I should note, on Wednesday, the Titans were served sautéed butterfly chicken breast and tenderloin tips with gravy by their caterer, and Randy Moss loved it.
He likes it.
He
really likes it. That's good for Randy.
Who you got here?
I'm taking the Titans. And it's not because Miami's winless at home, which is weird.
It is weird.
It's really weird. It's not because of that. I really like Tennessee. I've kind of liked them all year. I think they'll be able to stretch the field now with Randy Moss, and that's going to give CJ some room to run.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Dolphins here. I just think if you can get them at that number, they are a good football team. They've got a good defense. Chad Henne is he's having some problems lately, and he's starting to piss me off because I'm a Brandon Marshall fantasy owner. But I'm going to go with the Dolphins. I'm going to take the Dolphins plus 0.5 point at home. Martinego, you wanted to chime in?
I was going to chime in, and you know what? Unfortunately, I don't have the Law and Order background for this.
Okay.
But Chad Pennington will get the start.
What?
There you go.
Wow. Just a huge turn of events in Miami. Jason Brough furiously That's big. I had no idea. Thank you, Mike Martinego, for that update. Chad Pennington moving in. I did notice that Chad Henne played terribly last weekend.
Yes.
3 interceptions.
Sorry, Chad Pennington will get the start.
Thank you.
Well played. All right.
By the rules.
Good note to go to break with, folks, in case you missed that. It looks like Henne is out. Pennington is in at quarterback for the Dolphins. That could change some things. Pennington, all he does is win football games.
And throw really slow balls.
Those balls come down with snow on them sometimes. It is a bit of a lofty one. We got to get going to break. When we come back, we'll wrap up the rest of the games, including the big one. New England goes to Pittsburgh in a battle of 6-2 teams. Don't change the dial. Mike Halford, Jason Brough, the Kurtenblog on Team 1040.
You're listening to the Kurtenbloggers. Jason Brough and Mike Halford on Team 1040. Presented by Sports Action Oddset. Play Sports Action online at playnow.com.
We'll continue with our NFL picks. Hey, if you're out this weekend, maybe Sunday you're going to head to your local bar or pub, have a couple beers, maybe you're going to watch the games. Why not make it a complete afternoon by putting a few bucks on the games with Sports Action? The new Sports Action self-serve terminal at participating bars and pubs makes it easier than ever to place a bet. Simply use the touchscreen to choose your bet type, scroll through the menu, and find the matchups or events you want to bet on. If you happen to be writing down Jason and I's picks, or Martinego's even, for this weekend, you can use those. All Sports Action bets are available. Props, odds set, point spread, over, under, and toto, all right there at your fingertips. Look for the new Sports Action self-serve terminals in participating bars and pubs. Remember, you must be 19 years or older to play Sports Action. Know your limits. Play within it.
Or you can just flush your money down the toilet.
Oh, our picks are good. Let's move on. The Minnesota Vikings coming off a big comeback win last week. They're at 3-5. They go to Chicago to take on the Bears, who are at 5-3. A classic AFC Norris battle. Minnesota, a half-point favorite at Soldier Field.
Yeah, I actually don't bet on Jay Cutler Vikings. That is all.
Yeah, Cutler's really tough to back right now. You're asking me to choose between Jay Cutler and Brett Favre, two guys who I trust very, very little, but I'll take Favre. I think he might have turned the corner last week. And these are the games that Minnesota has to win. This is a winnable game for Minnesota. They've got tougher games down the stretch. If they want to make a playoffs, they have to win this game. I have the Vikings. Brough has the Vikings. Martinego?
Gunslinger.
3 for the Vikes. The Loser Bowl is the only way I can describe this next one. The 0-8 Buffalo Bills host the 2-6 Detroit Lions. Buffalo a 2.5-point favorite.
This is when it ends. This is when it ends for the Lions. They're going to win on the road.
Oh, okay.
They have lost, I believe it's 24 straight games now on the road. It ends this weekend. Lions win. Even with Sean Hill at quarterback.
I'm saying it ends for the Bills. The Bills get their first win of the year.
Oh, I see what you've done there.
At home. In front of the Ralph Wilson faithful. 0-8, they played really decent football, and that's the best thing you can say about Buffalo.
They have just been super decent.
They have been close the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
They've been on the doorstep. They're not going to go 0-9. This is the time against a Detroit team that doesn't have Matt Stafford, that doesn't play good defense. I like the Bills. I'm going to take the Bills -2.5. Martinego?
I think the Bills will win this, but I'm going to go with the Lions, even though it's 2.5.
Wow, you're going to say a 1 point.
This is like hitting on a 17 right now in blackjack.
I love it. I love this guy. He's crazy.
If that happens, dinner's on me.
Yeah, man.
We got the audio of it.
Yeah, you're gonna you get the hamburger.
Bills are gonna win this one by 2.
You get a free mouse burger if you win this.
Great,
okay.
great.
Yeah.
Mouse burgers Friday nights.
The New York Jets at 6-2 travel to Cleveland to take on the feisty Browns. The Jets are a 3.5-point favorite, but Cleveland, their last 2 wins were against the Saints and the Patriots. Where do you see this one going, Jason Brough?
I am tempted, very tempted, to get down on Cleveland as a home dog. I just think it's swung. The pendulum has swung too far now. You know, how many points is it?
3.5.
3.5. That's not enough for the Jets. The Jets are still a very good team. Cleveland still isn't. They're still 3-5. Okay, yeah, they've had 2 good games in a row. I think the Jets end that little mini streak, and they win by at least 3.